should have turned around the moment I saw the box wedged behind the insulation in our Portland garage, an ugly shape wrapped so tightly in gray duct tape that it looked like someone never wanted sunlight or human hands to touch it again. I was only clearing space for a new water heater, just like my father asked. If he knew I was digging that far into the back wall, he would have come out himself. He hated anyone messing with the garage. Even my mom stayed clear of it, like the room belonged to someone else, someone heavier than him. But he was gone at the time, so I kept going, and curiosity pushed me deeper. It whispered that trouble only falls on other people, never the one doing the opening. The insulation was newer than the house itself, which was strange because our place had been built more than 80 years ago. The neighborhood records said the same family line owned the land for a century, yet nobody could explain how we ended up buying it. Some people joked our house chose its next owners. No one ever mentioned selling it. I never cared about that until the moment I pulled the box free and sliced open the tape. Inside, instead of old receipts or forgotten tools, I found something worse, a stack of photographs. Dozens of them, all showing my mother, much younger, standing beside a house I recognized from the story she told. Her first home in Wisconsin, but she wasn't alone. A man stood beside her in almost every picture, his hand resting at her waist like it belonged there. And in her arms was a boy who looked so much like my old childhood photos that, for a moment, I stopped breathing. Same dimples, same hair, same soft round face. Even the small scar under his left eye, the one my parents said came from a fall I took as a toddler. Except the date written on the back said the photo was taken years before I was born. At first, I convinced myself it was coincidence, that everyone has a cousin or distant relative who looks similar. But the more I looked, the more something inside my chest clawed against my ribs. The pictures changed over time, their smiles dimming. In the early ones, the boy laughed under bright sunshine, but as the years passed, the man's grip on my mom tightened in each frame. The boy gained bruises. In one picture, he stared at the ground instead of the camera, shoulders drawn tight like he expected a blow. It felt wrong. Not like a family album, but like a file of things that should never have happened. And when I reached the last photo, everything inside me turned cold and still. My mom sat in a hospital room beside the same boy, her face drained, her eyes swollen. He wasn't bruised that time, he wasn't smiling. He looked asleep, pale, too still. A medical band circled his wrist, but the part showing his name was torn away, ripped sharply like someone didn't want it known. And at the doorway behind them stood the man, jaw clenched, eyes locked on whoever held the camera. The glare looked hungry, angry, possessive. That photo didn't belong in a box. It belonged in a police file. Or a grave. I shoved everything back into the box when I heard the door from the kitchen open. My dad stepped into the garage, wiping grease from his fingers, his eyes sweeping instantly toward the corner where I knelt. He didn't ask what I found. He didn't ask why I was there. He walked in like he already knew. He just said, calm but too calm, put that back. No anger, no confusion, just quiet command, like this moment was rehearsed. I froze. Dad, who is the kid? He didn't look at me, or at the box. He stared at the floor like answering out loud might wake something he spent years burying. His voice barely moved the air when he said, some things are covered for a reason. Let them stay covered. When he took the box from my hands and placed it on a high shelf like he had done it before, something inside me twisted. I didn't follow him back inside. I stood there breathing too fast, trying to make sense of a family photograph with a child who wore my scar years before I was born. At dinner, my mom kept glancing at my dad, waiting for him to say something he never said. She didn't ask me why I was in the garage so long. She avoided my eyes like she already knew what I had seen. Later that night, around 7:45 p.m., I walked into the living room for a blanket and found my mother sitting on the couch in the dim light, holding a mug so tight her knuckles were chalk white. She didn't hear me until I stepped closer, and when she looked up, tears glazed her eyes. Please tell me you didn't open the box. Her voice cracked in the middle. My throat tightened. I told her I had. She shut her eyes like bracing for an earthquake. You weren't meant to see that. What now? I asked, though I already felt the ground shifting. She whispered, he wasn't missing. He wasn't taken. He didn't run off. People always assumed, but no. He belonged to us, and we failed him. A chill crawled up my spine so slowly it hurt. Mom, who was he? Why do I look like him? Before she could answer, the garage door opened again. My father walked in holding the box with both hands. He didn't hide it this time. He didn't look scared this time. He looked resolved. He placed the box on the dining table and held one of the photos toward me. If you're going to know, he said, then you're going to know everything. My mom stood up sharply. Don't do this. He didn't turn. He deserves the truth, and so does the boy we lost. Lost. Not someone else's child. Not a cousin. Lost. My heart hammered so loud, I felt it in my jaw. I don't have a brother, I said. I never did. My mom closed her eyes again, trembling. You did. Before we had you, my father stayed standing, the overhead light carving long shadows down his face. His eyes were tired. Not guilty, not sad. Just tired, like he had carried the weight too long. We never told you because it was safer, he said. After everything that happened, I stared at the youngest photo again. The boy smiling, the man beside them. Who is he, the man in the pictures? My father inhaled slowly. That's not the part that matters most. It matters to me, he exhaled sharply, the same way he used to when I was a kid pushing boundaries. Except now the boundary was the truth. Your mother was married before me. My mom sank into a chair, shaking. It was a bad marriage. I was young, he was older, controlling, mean in ways that didn't show in public. His name was Victor. When the boy was born, he grew even worse, jealous and paranoid. He didn't trust anyone alone with the child. He didn't allow her to leave the house without him. He checked every hour of their day. He cut her off from her own family. She tried to leave once, just once. She took the boy and stayed with a friend for 2 days, but Victor found them. He dragged the boy back and told everyone she was unstable. The courts believed him because he had money. She got supervised visits. Mom's voice cracked. I tried to fight. I tried everything. But one night, Victor brought the boy to the hospital with a concussion and fractured ribs. He claimed the child fell downstairs. But doctors saw old bruises. They called child services, and for the first time, someone believed her. Victor stalked them after she regained custody. He waited in cars, followed her, watched through windows. Deputies told him to leave or be arrested. Nothing stopped him. I felt nausea roll through my stomach. So what happened the night in the hospital? Mom made a broken sound, half sob, half breath. He came in pretending to visit another patient, she whispered. He waited until I stepped into the hallway bathroom. A nurse saw him enter the boy's room, thought he was allowed. She heard him talking softly, then louder, then yelling. I reached the room too late. Too late. Dad spoke flatly. He tried to pull him from the bed, ripped out the IV. The machines went wild. Nurses rushed in. Security dragged him out. Doctors stabilized the child, but the stress and the injuries were too much. The boy died the next morning. Silence wrapped the room tight. Mom's tears fell fast now. I couldn't keep him safe, I promised. And I couldn't. I could barely breathe. And you hid everything? Dad nodded. We didn't want Victor knowing where he was buried. We didn't want anything leading him to your mother. We changed states, changed our name, started a quiet life. I stared at the faded pictures again. So why keep these at all? Mom spoke softly. Because pretending he never lived felt worse than losing him. I couldn't erase him, even if hiding him was the only way to keep you safe. I swallowed hard. Why do I look like him? Both of them froze. Dad finally said, you were born with his scar. His dimples, his eyes. Your mom panicked because she feared someone else would notice. Someone from the past. And Victor? I asked. What happened to him? Dad exchanged a look with Mom. Fear mixed with memory. He never stopped looking, Dad said. He called hospitals across states, showed up at houses he thought were tied to us. Then one day, he disappeared. Some say he moved away. Some say he went to prison. Some say he just vanished. We don't know. We didn't tell you because we didn't want you growing up with his shadow. My father paused, then added one last thing. A thing that made my blood turn cold. Last month, someone broke into our garage. They didn't steal anything, they just opened that wall panel. They were searching for those photos. Something about the boy. Something about your mother. A tremor passed through my chest. Who? Dad looked at me with something darker than fear. We think Victor is alive. Mom grabbed my hand. Her skin was freezing. And if he finds out we had another son who looks exactly like the first, Dad whispered, he won't believe you aren't his. The days after that didn't feel real. Shadows in the hallway looked longer. Footsteps outside our house sounded closer. The basement lights flickered every night around 2 a.m. And sometimes, when I passed the basement door, I heard my childhood nickname whispered from the darkness, a name only a dead father ever used in their past life. Family photos began changing too. In older pictures on the wall, a faint figure appeared behind relatives, growing closer each year, almost replacing faces. No one else seemed to notice but me. At night, pacing sounds moved through the house. My mother slept with the lights on. My father blocked the garage door with heavy furniture, but deep down, I knew the truth. Things buried don't always stay buried in Portland. Houses don't always forget the bloodlines that lived in them. And sometimes, the past walks straight through the front door when it finally finds your name again. I still hear the nickname in the basement. I still see the shadow in the old photos, and I know he isn't gone. Not really. He's just waiting for the moment I'm alone. The story teaches that secrets never stay silent forever, no matter how deep a family buries them, because truth has a way of crawling back through the cracks, and the past always finds its path home. Hiding pain may feel safe, but it only grows darker in the shadows, turning into something far more terrifying than the truth itself.